Questions for Coach?
You guys made it through ramp-up period healthy, or is there any injuries you guys had working on?
Just a couple of guys nicked up here and there, but nothing serious, nothing that's going to leave anybody unavailable for the weekend or unavailable for the year, certainly. So we're doing pretty good there. Had, like I said, a couple of little soft tissue injuries, but no, we're good to go.
Walsh is going to go this weekend. What's kind of the order look like for you?
Yeah, so we'll go McConaughey, then Horn, then Walsh, then Brockett in that order.
With Walsh specifically, I mean, how much has he benefited from just not having a hit and work on that part of the game, I guess?
I think it's helped him. I think just him staying here this summer, I think he's transformed his body a little bit. He's stronger in some different areas that are more suitable for pitchers. I think he did some things this summer that got him moving a little faster on the mound than when we've seen him at his best. I mean, his misses are always really small, but when he's moving faster, his margin for error is a little bit bigger because his stuff is a little sharper, and he doesn't have to rely on trying to sneak 87 by guys as much anymore. So I think it's benefited him. I think more than anything, just him staying home this summer, making that decision to just kind of go to work on some of that stuff has allowed him to be in this position to start opening weekend.
How are second and first base kind of coming together too? And you get a lot of options there. How has that sort of gone here the last few weeks?
Yeah, I think there's certainly some ongoing battles. We're not at the finish line with opening day. But that being said, I think Sanderson's kind of entrenched himself as an everyday player with his body of work from last year, this summer certainly, and what he's shown, back this spring especially. Just he's a little rejuvenated. I think this fall he went right into it after getting 350 at bats last spring and summer. So he's been great this spring. He's kind of entrenched himself as an everyday player over there at first base, and he's very good defensively over there. And I think Brumbaugh has kind of settled himself into that leadoff spot and second base position. No problems with injuries. He's feeling good. He's feeling healthy, and look forward to seeing him stay healthy for a full year for us.
Those guys at first specifically, so Sanderson would be in that mix. Is Swanson playing some first as well?
No, we got Stone still over there. Yeah, Stone's still over there. Swanee has taken the glove over there a few times in the indoor setting. Max Butenbeck has done the same. You could put Overbeek over at first base as well. So I don't, Sanderson handles left-handers pretty well too, so I don't really see a platoon situation with him. I think as long as, he's doing what it takes to help with the team win, he'll be in the lineup and playing first base.
What does Brumbaugh specifically kind of give you in a leadoff type role? I mean, he was in there a little bit last year.
Yeah.
I mean, what did he bring there?
Yeah, I just think he's a very confident hitter. He knows kind of what he's trying to do at the plate and also maybe kind of what the pitcher's trying to do. You alluded to it. I mean, he has experience doing it. He did it a lot for us last year. He did it all fall. He just done it all spring. And he's versatile to where he could go hit an RBI spot if we felt like we needed that. What I'm hoping is that we have those guys already and that Brum can stay in the leadoff spot. And, he just kind of provide that spark for the team. When he's doing what he needs to do, he's setting the tone for the group, and he just has a good eye at the plate too. He's a over 400 on base guy, and guy with certainly really, really good speed, and can get around the bases pretty well.
You've already mentioned about 10 different guys who all have extensive experience. How deep is this team?
Yeah, I think that's always the age-old question before every year, right? It's like, the depth's better this year, I think that's just by nature. We feel like it is. We want it to be. I feel like because we have so many returning players that weren't just role players last year, that were everyday players, you have a sense of what they can do. And then we've seen them play in high-pressure situations. Obviously, we see how they respond to that. so you name all those guys, we could roll an entire lineup out the same almost. Obviously, Josh Caron's, big shoes to fill, but then you also have a bunch of guys that we don't talk about as much that have played really, really well too, that give you options. Ultimately, what I'd like to have is, at least 5 or 6 guys that are entrenched. I mean, I think you need to have that. You need to have guys that establish themselves as everyday players, and when they do that, they're just consistent over the course of the year. And then you've got some spots maybe in there, 3 or 4 of them, that you can kind of mix and match and play some matchups and defense and some of those things. So I feel like we've got that offensively and on the mound. At the end of the day, we're going to end up riding, a few guys that show that they can help us win.
Brumbaugh's leadoff guy. Is Silva, do you kind of see him as a 2-hole guy, or is he a 9 spot?
I think Silva could do. I think those guys kind of fit in that bucket, the 1, 2, 7, 8, 9 crew. We've got a few guys that kind of fit in that mold. I think Silva, when he's in there, can turn the lineup over at the bottom as a kind of a second leadoff hitter. When he's really rolling, like he was at the beginning of the year last year, he's a spark at the top of the lineup. So I think it's just, those guys all kind of fit in a similar bucket, just that high on-base contact oriented base stealing crew. I think Brum, Bolin, him, they all kind of fit. Silva all fit in that mold.
Where have you seen Ty Horn's biggest improvement this offseason?
I would say just his maturity, I guess. And again, that we need that to show up this weekend, right? I mean, we need that to show up, and I think at times he kind of fell in love with his fastball and, tried to blow it by people and would be chasing the count and then have to use the middle of the plate. And, guys can hit a fastball that start, at this level. So just maturity from learning from that, from last year, from this fall, navigating against our lineup. Understanding he's got to change speeds. He's got to lead with the breaking ball and land it. He's got to throw the changeups and fastball counts, and trusting his stuff and trusting everybody around him that he doesn't have to go do it all on his own. I think he, again, that's kind of human nature for a freshman. You want to prove yourself, but he would get himself in trouble if he were to continue to do that. If what we've seen from him is just a maturity level of, hey, I know what I have to do to pitch and what I have to do to start, and now can you do it each week? And so those are the things. We've seen him mature a lot. He's more physically strong, and obviously he's been through a year and a half of it now, and he's ridden the highs and lows. He's had a lot of confidence, and he's lost his confidence as he gained it back, and now just trying to stay even keeled.
You guys have so many options in the outfield too. What's been kind of a separator in terms of who's maybe some of those early cracks out there?
Yeah, like I said, I think you have. I think you'd like to have a couple of guys there on the corners that you feel like you can just roll out there, and you just, Swanee. We've seen him at his very best. We've seen him when he's had some hard times, right? But he's navigated those things now, and when he's a senior, he's a guy that needs to be in the lineup for us. He needs to produce and needs to be in the lineup. But again, he doesn't need to chase stats. He's got to chase good at-bats. And I think that's where he got himself in trouble some last year. Early he was chasing the accolades and, some of that stuff that was coming his way, the draft status. I think he'd be the first to admit that, and he's just in a different headspace now. So when he's right, we know he's one of the best hitters in the conference. He's an All-American type player. Cale Frost is kind of in that same mold, right? I mean, you need some run producers. You need some guys that have done it, have seen the ups and downs. Frost his more ups and downs have come since he's been here and faced our staff. But he's really trending in a direction of a guy that, you want to see up at the plate. And so then you've got kind of some other guys in that Butenbeck mold that has been awesome and, has a shorter track record, but one nonetheless. And like you said, you've got Silva and Bolin and some others that are kind of fighting for at-bats. So I'd like to have a set corner. I think you can play defense late in games with some of those guys. One of those two will be playing center field between Silva and Bolin. But I think they'll ultimately, if we're winning late, they'll both be on the field at the same time.
4 different opponents and pretty stiff competition this weekend. How much do you expect to learn about your team this weekend?
Well, you learn every time you go out, that's for sure. But right out of the chute, playing these type teams, it's kind of like last year. I thought, we left the weekend 1-2, but I felt awfully good about our team. Not that we played close and lost, but just that there were some moments there that didn't pass us by that the other team just took advantage of. And so I feel like we're gonna find out a lot, but it doesn't define our season either. I think we just have to stay very consistent in what we do, and we have a veteran club. We have a bunch of guys that have seen it, have been there and done that, and but they understand also that it's a new season as well. So we'll learn a lot, just like we do any weekend. But certainly playing in that type of venue against those opponents that we're going to play this weekend, starting with Irvine especially, we'll learn a lot pretty quick.
You settled on a catcher.
Yeah, Haligzo will be our go-to guy back there. I anticipate him kind of being the mainstay behind the plate, and feel like we've got a couple of guys, and Jeske and Cymbalista behind him in particular, that could fill in if need be, that maybe bring something a little bit different. But Hogan just he's already caught really good arms where he was at Creighton, and he's handled our staff well, and I think with the bat, he's just going to keep the line moving for us. So I would expect him to be in there more often than not.
How do you plan to use Jalen Worthley this year?
Yeah, J-Dub will be coming out of the pen still. I think that's just kind of a consensus conversation with him and us of, sure, I'd like to start Coach, but I think if I start, then maybe the bullpen is not as strong. And so that's pretty incredible for not only him, but others that we have that are just the culture says we're here to win and we're here to compete to win. And so what's that look like? For my role, I don't really care as long as I'm in the middle of helping us win. So Jalen wants to be there with the big moments. He understands that those moments may be in the 7th or 8th inning, just as much as the first. So he'll be coming out of the pen. He'll have his cleats on every day. I think he went to work this offseason to make sure that he can take the ball and be close to his best as many times as possible over the course of a week. And that's where we kind of, last year, again, him just kind of learning, navigating through it. Second time in the week, his stuff was a little down. So we're just going to try to keep him consistent this year.
What's the hardest part of coaching when you have such a veteran team coming in?
I think we ran into more of what you have in the fall with a veteran team. The fall is so far away from the season that the veteran guys just kind of want to fast forward to the spring, knowing that they can't do it, but the fall gets a little bit lost on some of those older guys because they understand that if I hit 450 this fall, it doesn't mean anything. I mean, I have to be ready to go when spring rolls around. So I haven't had that issue this spring, though, because the guys kind of, since they've been here in January, they understand the urgency that it takes to win. And I don't want to say they flipped the switch on, but in a lot of ways those guys have. They have really done a good job there. So sometimes the challenge can be egos. Guys, last ride, hey, what's in it for me? Not with this team. These guys I've already met with half the hitters and had a couple of conversations with guys that could go sideways if we had some egos, and they say, Coach, we understand that it's going to take all of us to win anyway. So whatever that looks like, we trust you. And that's a good feeling. I think it speaks to the culture that we have in our clubhouse, that those guys are just kind of bought into what we're doing.
Any more questions? Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.